Hey guys, and welcome to the newest episode of the Bad Batch, where today I've got a couple of topics on hand. So the last episode we did was basically on the introduction of the High Republic. And now that the first two books, at least that I was interested in, Light of the Jedi and Into the Dark are out. I've read a little bit of Into the Dark, and I'm 33% of the way through Light of the Jedi. I really wanted to give you my personal thoughts and feelings on the matter. But first, let's get to the biggest news that kind of dropped last night, which is the actress for Cara Dune in The Mandalorian has just been let go by Disney. And it's kind of funny because when I was looking on Twitter, I saw like hashtag canceled Cara Dune or hashtag fire Gina Carano trending. And so I was talking to my friends and I thought, this isn't going to be good for her. And I think I have mixed opinions on this. Simplistically, should she be let go? Yes. But my brain goes, I feel like we're going to get... I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this. Like, I hope this doesn't become a precedent. Granted, is she saying stuff that's untrue, false, fake news, all that good stuff? Yes. Yes, she is. Most certainly. But the thing that's gonna bug me is, like, I always play the what would happen if it was this, or what would happen if it was that. And I guess we gotta see how this plays out. So the big question is, when we talk about Cara Dune, is I don't think they actually recorded season 3. Like, unlike Alex in the Expanse, they kind of already warn you that he's done skis. He's no more. He's been Me Too'd to hell and back from the Expanse. And at least for season 5 of The Mandalorian, or not the Mandalorian, the Expanse, they were able to kind of wrap up his story. And I was happy for that. Cara Dune, on the other hand, they got one of two options. Either kill her off screen, which I don't like. I've never liked the whole death off screen thing. So let's not do that. But a lot of people have been throwing out who's going to recast her. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Like, Cara Dune could literally be played by Ronda Rousey. Kind of a middle finger to Gina Carano, but you know. But yeah, like, this might be a shitty thing to say, but Cara Dune could be played by anybody. And that's not a bad thing. That actually is a good thing in this case. Brie Larson could play Cara Dune. They just need to give her a really weird wig. Daisy Ridley could play Cara Dune. There's a lot of people that could play Cara Dune in my mind's eye, but that's because, in all honesty, the character of Cara Dune isn't explosive. Like, it's like if someone said Katie Sackhoff, who plays I can't think of her name, who plays Starbuck on Battlestar Galactica. That's what keeps screaming out of my mind. But mostly, one of the Mandalorians from Mandalore. You guys can shout the name out because, dear God, it's blanking on me. If someone told me Katie Sackhoff, who has been in the Star Wars canon at this rate for years, like in Clone Wars, in the Rebels series, and even in Mandalorian now, it would be you would have to give me a damn good reason to replace her. At that point, I would have done the Alex thing and killed her off. But luckily, this isn't Katie Sackhoff. This is Gina Carano. Gina Carano's character is so new to the game that either one, you could replace the sheriff with a new sheriff, you could kill off her character, or you could have an actress play Cara Dune, a new actress play Cara Dune. And that is the long and simple of it. Is I have no clue what they're going to do. I seriously don't. And I don't want to dredge on what happened or how she got fired. The long and the short of this for this Bad Batch podcast is she got fired. Where do we go from now? Because I'm wondering if they wanted Gina Carano to kind of be like this bridge between the series, at least for the Boba Fett series, because she does know Boba Fett. But now that happened, maybe they kill. That actually is something I didn't think about because they didn't record scenes for Mandalorian, but they're probably recording scenes for Boba Fett right now. Is they can easily just kill her ass off in Boba Fett, like have Boba Fett kill her. So yeah, this is a very weird situation. I am curious where this is gonna go. So, if you guys have any thoughts and opinions on it, please let me know in the comment section below. Next on our agenda, and what I really wanted to talk about, is my personal thoughts, feelings, and curiosities about the High Republic. So, as you know, Light of the Jedi came out, I think it was like January 11th. And this was like, for big Star Wars fans, it's like if you wanted to learn about the High Republic, you read this book. And even in their conferences, when they talked about the High Republic, it's basically you start at Light of the Jedi, and if you find any other books with the High Republic, you can read those. It's the like Into the Dark and A Test of Courage, and even the comics are very much like kind of expanding on the lore, while at the same time giving itself its own like narrative or story. I'll get to Into the Dark in a minute, but let's talk about Light of the Jedi, because Into the Dark impressed me. Like, I was expecting so much worse. So Light of the Jedi, I'm only going to talk about the first 3 chapters, mostly because those chapters are actually online. You can go to StarWars.com and you can get those 3 chapters. So, how the story goes is we start off. What I love is, compared to most Star Wars stories where the main focus is the Jedi, I kind of like that this incident is the main character. So, like, it kind of has its own characterization. Yeah, there are a bunch of space debris shooting into planets, but the fact that they gave so much urgency in the first book kind of says a lot about what happened in the High Republic. So the first 3 chapters are very much set up for these, for this debris that's about to hit Hetzal Prime, and we don't know who fired the debris. We don't know who was a part of this. All we know is that basically it's like this thing kind of like fell out of hyperspace and is still going at the speed of hyperspace. That's what they've kind of been hinting at. To the point where it's like destroying a ship here and there, destroying a comm station. Like, this thing wrecks shit. And no spoiler alert, because this is their way of introducing the Nile. If this is the Nile's plan, I'm curious what they're doing. So I'm already chapter 15 out of 44, so I'm a third of the way through the book. And I am very curious where the story goes. But let's talk about the one thing I didn't expect to talk about, which is the Jedi. So for this franchise, I guess, you gotta make the Jedi likable. And the biggest issue I've had with Jedi in Star Wars past is the Jedi are either like Deus Ex Machinas, or they're just so powerful and so beloved. And I'm talking about Clone Wars Jedi. The Jedi in 4 through 9 are very different. And the Jedi in the Clone Wars seemed very much like, well, keepers of the peace, essentially. Because no matter what and they also felt like very much militia, where they went out and tried to stop a war with the Separatists. So what is the High Republic's version of a Jedi? So the High Republic is set 200 years beforehand. To give you an idea, Yoda is about 500, 600 years old. I had to do the math, because I was like, oh, they put when he died, and he's about 600, 500 years old. I haven't seen Yoda yet, and there's a comic book series where he's like prominently in the show, or in the comic. So I'm curious how different he is to Old Man Yoda, and even different to Baby Yoda. So it'll be interesting. So I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. The Jedi and the High Republic still do keep peace and balance and are defenders of the peace. But here is the catch. They almost feel like anti-heroes. Almost. Like, there's like this... So, like, there's hero, villain, and in the middle is an anti-hero. They're kind of in the middle between hero and anti-hero. Because some of the stuff that a certain character does made me think of like what Mace Windu would have done if he had handled the situation, or to some extent Qui-Gon Jinn. Like, it was something I know I would not have seen coming from most Jedi. To be fair, if the Jedi of the Clone Wars had this same situation, they would have only helped if it was going to attack Coruscant. Like, that's the thing. I don't mean to shit on the Jedi, pardon my French, but the Clone Wars version of the Jedi is very interesting and very... They're in their own world. Like, the Jedi in the Clone Wars was supposed to be a political satire on how kind of government intervention works in, third world countries and stuff like that. So I get that. And so the biggest thing I've stated this as a Star Wars fan, is if you want Disney to get love out of the Star Wars fan, you gotta put them in their own sandbox. And I mean, they have areas where they can just have their own sandbox. Look at The Mandalorian. Technically, that era, that 30-year gap, is its own sandbox. Sadly, they have to keep tying it to the original trilogy and whatever. But this book here feels closely resembling of what Disney can do with their own sandbox, with their own set of characters. And yeah, there are some characters I love. There's not one character so far I don't like. But let's get to the second book, and probably the last part of the topic is Into the Dark. So this one's by, I can't think of her name, but why do I like this book? I guess is the best way to ask. So the reason why I like this book is two reasons. One, it is very much Star Wars version of Dead Space. Like, if I had to pitch meeting this to my friends, I would have called this what Star Wars' version of Dead Space is like. And they've touched on that kind of creepy macabre in the Clone Wars series and even in Rebels at times. So when I was reading what was going on, it didn't seem so far-fetched. I've only read the first chapter just to kind of get an idea, and I've gotten some spoilers from the Star Wars kind of lore series. And it's something I'd highly recommend if you really just don't want to pick up the book, but you want to know, like, oh, how is this going? Like, I do agree with some people saying that Into the Dark, I expected it to have zero continuity with anything. But so far, they've really tried to make sure that, like, Light of the Jedi is the center point, and basically everything else is kind of like an aftermath of what happens. Like, Into the Dark is an aftermath. A Test of Courage is an aftermath. And I do like that these more adult books are kind of like the bigger MCU stories. And then the other books that they have are more standalone, more, while it's attached to it. Like, the perfect example is like the book that I just read is the Avengers. Light of the Jedi is like the Avengers, where a big event happens and it culminates into lasting effects for the story. And then, to be honest, A Test of Courage is like Daredevil. At this rate, you don't need to watch Daredevil because it's not tied to the canon, but they still make reference to the events of that of what happened in the Avengers. Same thing with The Test of Courage. Like, I would not recommend it unless for honest you have kids, and want to read something to them. And then Into the Dark feels way more like a standalone movie, like Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, whatever, where it has a lot of placement in the series, but it doesn't make the big leaps and bounds that like an Avengers movie or Captain America Civil War did. Which is fine. Like, hey, standalone stories where I get characters that I like and will probably come back in the comics or in the second book, which is like Rise of the Storm, is interesting and fascinating, and I kind of can't wait for it. So that's my kind of first impressions on the High Republic. So I'm going to come out with I plan to come out with two videos for the Bad Batch, mostly because we don't have that much Star Wars coming out right now. The first one is going to be my opinion on the High Republic, or not the High Republic, Light of the Jedi. I'm going to do a book review of that one, and it's probably going to also have some spoilers in it. So, of course, kind of like what I've been doing with other stuff, I will tell you what I think of it and then give you my spoiler opinion. But yeah, so far, other than certain instances, I actually think Star Wars is heading in the right direction. Without further ado, guys, that is it. I hope you have a good day, and may the Force be with you always.